What's up, guys, and welcome back into Breaking Boards. In today's episode, we're going to break down the Thursday Night Football Showdown contest over on DraftKings between the Washington Commanders traveling to take on the Green Bay Packers. This game has a 48.5 total, with Washington's implied team total being 22.5 and Green Bay's being 26.5. Can't wait to break this thing down player by player with you guys. They built the board. Now let's break this damn thing. Before we jump into this, I hope you guys do get something out of the content if you do like the video and subscribe to the channel. I hope you checked out Monday's video. I did give my player-by-player breakdown, and I took down a solo bink, and actually, I guess a double solo bink over on FanDuel last night. Finished first and second place all by myself. So I appreciate you guys being here. Let's hop into the player-by-player breakdown for the Washington Commanders versus the Green Bay Packers. Looking first at the Washington side, we have Jayden Daniels, who I think might be my favorite captain in this game by far. Will probably end up at about 22% on him. Anytime you play a rushing quarterback in the captain spot on Showdown is always a plus. You can pair him along with his teammates in the flex. You could go with McLaurin, Debo, even Krosky Merritt, even though he's not really a pass catcher, but you could if you would like. Austin Eckler would be a top option for me. I do love some Zach Ertz in this game, and I typically do not. Don't mind getting to Matt Gay. Would not probably put the Commanders defense in there. If you want to go with some of these dart throw guys at the bottom, just looking down through here, if you want to throw in a Ben Sinnott or something along those lines, or a John Bates, Chris Moore saw a pretty decent snap share in week one. Luke McCaffrey's not terrible, but he did have a smaller snap share in week one. Rodriguez was a healthy scratch. So there are some guys down here, Jaylen Lane, Noah Brown included, that you can throw in if you have a Jayden Daniels lineup. If you do have Jayden in the captain spot and you're in larger field contests, you are going to have to throw some of these, bottom feeders in there to get different in those massive contests, or you're going to be duped many, many, many times on Thursday night. There is not a lot to love in the captain spot. Taking a look at my ownership on Jayden Daniels for Thursday night, I have him at 26% in the captain spot, and I have him at 43% in the flex. I think that's about right for Thursday night. As like I said, there's not many captains to love in this spot, but I will look to be over the field on Jayden Daniels. Moving over to the running back position for the Washington Commanders, we have Bill and we have Austin Eckler. And then as we scroll down here, we have Jeremy McNichols. And then who knows if Chris Rodriguez is going to play or not. As of right now, I'm just going to assume that he's another healthy scratch. So we're just going to look at these three guys. I prefer Krosky Merritt over on FanDuel, given that he is a goal line back, but I don't mind him over on DraftKings as well. I will consider him in the captain spot. My favorite of the running back positions, assuming he plays, and looking at this tag here, he has a Q tag for Thursday night with a shoulder injury, was limited in Monday's practice, which lets me know that he's probably planning to play on Thursday. So I will look to have way over the field on Eckler if he plays, given that he's a little bit cheaper than Krosky Merritt over on DraftKings. And Green Bay was not great against pass catching running backs in 2024, and that's something that Eckler has always been great at. So we'll look to have some Eckler in the captain as well. And Jeremy McNichols would just be a dart throw for me in larger field contests. So I will have Krosky Merritt and Eckler in the captain spot over on DraftKings. Pulling up my ownership here now, looking at the captain spot for lineups that I have built so far, we have 34% of Krosky Merritt overall, and in the captain spot, I have him at 6%. And then looking at Austin Eckler, I have him also at 6% in the captain spot. And as we pull up the flex, Krosky Merritt, I have him at 34%, and Austin Eckler have him at 33%. So around about the same on these guys, but I do prefer Eckler if we're talking about these guys in a vacuum. Talking about the wide receiver position for the Washington Commanders, we have Terry McLaurin, we have Debo Samuel, we have Noah Brown, we have Jaylen Lane, we have Luke McCaffrey, and we even have Chris Moore. So pulling up these guys and looking over some of my notes that I took down, considering the snap shares for these guys, I mean, you had McCaffrey at 7%, you had Chris Moore at 27%, you had Jaylen Lane at 30%, you had Noah Brown at 47%, you had Debo at 77%, and you had Terry McLaurin at 79% of a snap share in week number one. So Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey are going to be just complete dart throws for me in larger field contests. Jalen Lane is probably going to be about the same, but if you need a salary saver, I don't hate it, given that he saw the field about a third of the time. Noah Brown is someone who has a pretty decent floor at like 4 or 5 fantasy points, but not anyone that I'm going to look to be majorly over the field on. And with the Q tag, let's see what's going on with this guy. Was limited in practice with a knee. Looks like he's probably going to play on Thursday night, but it's not someone that I'm going to look to be over the field on. He really has no ceiling whatsoever, so I'm not going to consider him in the captain spot. But if you have $3,200 remaining and you want to get him in the flex in smaller field, I don't hate it, but I would go elsewhere. I think you can make better builds if that's what you're landing on. I would rebuild and run your optimizer again. I will consider both these guys in the captain spot. If we're talking about my favorite captain, it would be Deebo Samuel between the two. Green Bay has not been great against opposing running teams, and I think that Deebo is probably going to see an increase in rushing attempts as we move throughout the season. So I do prefer Deebo in the captain spot to Terry McLaurin. If you have Deebo up top, you don't have to have Jayden in the flex, but I probably would, given that Jayden has such a massive upside. If you have Terry in the captain spot, I would ensure that I had Jayden Daniels to go along with him. Looking at my captain ownership over on DraftKings, I do have 9% of Deebo and 9% of Scary Terry for Thursday night. Looking at the flex, so far in my builds, I have 34% Deebo and I have 30% Terry McLaurin. As we scroll down here, looking at these guys, I have Noah Brown at 11%, and I have Jalen Lane at about 2%, and I have Luke McCaffrey at 1% ownership, and that would be in very, very large field GPPs for Thursday night. Talking about the tight end position, I do like the tight end position for the Commanders Thursday night. This Green Bay defense is not great against the tight end position, and I'm actually going to put these guys in the order I would prefer them. Zach Ertz is someone I'm going to look to get to a lot of at 5,800. I have him 10, 11 fantasy points on Thursday night. I think he could sneak into the box, and he probably catches 5 or 6 balls for 40 to 60 yards, so I don't mind him at all. I will consider him in the captain spot, and if you do, please ensure that you have Jayden Daniels along with Zach Ertz in the flex. John Bates and Ben Sinnott will both be dart throws for me in larger field tournaments. Not either one of these guys are not someone I want to be way over the field on, and I don't think they have a massive upside, but they could catch a ball and maybe they catch a touchdown. Looking at the kicker position for the Commanders, Matt Gay is up, and Matt Gay does have a pretty decent floor. I do think you probably see 9 to 10 fantasy points for him. Won't be someone that I consider in the captain spot, but he will be in the flex, and he is my preferred flex between all the kickers and defenses. I will say that before we jump too far into this, I do prefer, just looking at salaries and my projections so far, I much prefer the kickers to the defenses into Thursday night's game. If we look over at my ownership and then talking about the tight end position as well, I have 33% on Zach Ertz. I have 30% on Matt Gay, and I have 1% of Ben Sinnott and 1% of John Bates. Like I said, I really like the kickers in this game, so really much prefer Matt Gay to the Commanders defense, which we're about to talk about. Commanders defense, I have them projected for about 4.6 fantasy points for Thursday night. They're not someone that I'm going to look to be over the field on. I'll try to be around the field. I typically do like a plus minus 6-7% on the defenses and kickers, just depending on how I'm feeling that night. So if the field ends up at 15%, I'll be somewhere between 8 and 15% on the Commanders defense. And if the field's at 15% on Matt Gay, I'll be somewhere between 15% and 23% on Matt Gay for Thursday night's contest. So to recap for Washington, I would consider Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Corey Krosky-Merritt, Austin Eckler, and Zach Ertz as captain options. I will look to mix and match those guys. Jayden Daniels being my preferred option, Deebo being number 2, Austin Eckler 3, probably Bill and Terry tied for 4 and 5. And then Zach Ertz, I really like him as well. I think you can even consider any of these guys in smaller field tournaments if you really want to get different. And as we move over to the Green Bay side, you have Jordan Love up top at the QB position. I don't mind playing him in the captain or in the flex. I will have quite a bit of him on Thursday night. I will say that I prefer Green Bay in the flex overall because I think the Washington offense is more condensed and Green Bay tends to spread it around a lot. The only captain that I really prefer for Green Bay would be Josh Jacobs, but I'll have a majority of my lineups will have Washington in the captain spot, and I do prefer Green Bay in the flex. If you have Jordan Love captain lineups, you want to make sure you have at least 2 pass catchers in the flex, even though we're in a 1-game sample size here on Thursday night, in that Green Bay spreads the ball around so much. Looking at the running back position for Green Bay, we have Josh Jacobs, And as we scroll down here, we have Emmanuel Wilson and we have Chris Brooks, if I can find him. I prefer Jacobs in the captain spot if I'm going to use anybody from Green Bay that we just talked about. If you do have Jacobs up top, you don't have to get Jordan Love or anything like that in the flex. I actually like the Josh Jacobs captain with 5 commanders, or you can mix in McManus. So Jacobs captain, McManus, or a Green Bay defense in the flex. Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks will both be dart throws for me. If I was going to throw a dart, I actually prefer Chris Brooks in that he saw 31% of the snap share in week 1. So I prefer Brooks to Emmanuel Wilson if we're picking in a vacuum and given the salary savings. At the wide receiver position, we have 907 of these guys for Green Bay. So we have Jayden Reed, Matthew Golden, we have Romeo Dobbs, we have Dontavian Wicks, we have Savion Williams, and Malik Heath saw quite a bit of snap share in week number 1. Heath, Savion Williams will both be very, very large field dart throws for me. Either one of these guys here, pick a questionable wide receiver for Green Bay. I mean, Jayden Reed had a 38% snap share in week 1. He's playing through an injury. He's not going to be someone that I look to get to in the captain spot, in that this offense just, as I just talked about, spreads the ball around so much. I don't really want any of these guys in my captain spot. If I was going to do it, I would probably prefer Dobbs or Wicks. Matthew Golden has some upside as well. But again, I much prefer the Washington guys up top and then to mix these guys in the flex. So if you do have Jayden Reed up top, you don't have to have Jordan Reed in the flex. Jayden Reed does run the ball a little bit. But the rest of these guys, if I have either Golden, Dobbs, or Wicks up top, I want to make sure I have Jordan Love in the flex spot. Not my preferred option. If you want to get to it in smaller fields, that is on you. Talking about the tight end position for Green Bay, we have Tucker Kraft, we have Luke Musgrave, and we have John Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is a $200 dart throw. There are different $200 plays I much prefer, like Malik Heath, if I was going to go that route. Luke Musgrave would be a large field dart throw, especially at this price. A little bit expensive for me in that I don't think he has much of a ceiling. I think you see typically around 1 to 3 fantasy points, so don't love it at 2,400. Tucker Kraft is someone I'm going to look to be right at the field on. I will consider him in the captain spot, but it would have to be a larger field contest. Not really big on Tucker Kraft for Thursday night. Looking at the kicker spot, we have Brandon McManus. He is probably my second favorite kicker defense on the slate. We'll look to be over the field on him, whatever the field is, as we just talked about with Matt Gay. I'll look to be about 8% over the field on Brandon McManus. He is not going to be a captain option for me. And then closing this thing out with the Packers defense, I will have them mixed in. I will look to be under the field on them. So if the field again is at 15%, I'll look to be around 8 to 10% on them, maybe even up to 15% to match the field, but not someone I'm high on. They're probably my third favorite if we're ranking. So if we're ranking the kickers and defenses, we're going to go Matt Gay, Brandon McManus, Green Bay Packers defense, and then the Washington Commanders defense. So to recap for Green Bay, my favorite captain for them would be Josh Jacobs. I would consider Love, Reed, Golden, Kraft, and even Dobbs and Wicks. Dobbs and Wicks would be much larger field GPPs. Even Tucker Kraft would need to be a decent sized GPP. Not high on any of these guys, to be honest with you. And I, again, much prefer Green Bay in the flex for Thursday night. So to close this thing out, if we're talking about my preferred captains, smaller field, we're going to look at Jayden Daniels, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, Deebo Samuel, Krosky Merritt, Eckler, those kind of guys. But again, I'm not going to be over the field on a lot of these dudes. Prefer the Washington guys. I think Jayden Daniels is just the captain you're going to get to if you go smaller field. If you're going larger field, you can consider Daniels, Jacobs, Love, McLaurin, Deebo, Jayden Reed, Bill Jakowski Merritt, whatever the hell his name is, Austin Eckler, Matthew Golden, Zucker, Tucker Kraft. I think you can consider all of those guys if you'd like. Wicks and Dobbs also available. So many different types of builds for Thursday night if you want to get different and larger field contests. And that's going to do it for tonight's breakdown. I will say that the last 2 videos that I put up, they've gotten an okay amount of views. I had one I put up last week that went crazy, so I appreciate that one. I appreciate all the subscriptions and everything that you guys have done on the videos, comments, and whatnot. Before we get to Thursday night, please let me know what you guys are feeling in the comment section, where I'm right, where I'm wrong, who's your favorite captain, those types of things. Again, I appreciate you guys joining me for this ride. I appreciate everything you've done on the channel so far, and I hope you guys take down the Millie on Thursday night. Also, stay tuned on the channel. Make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be doing an in-depth player-by-player breakdown just like this one for the complete Sunday main slate over on DraftKings. Can't wait to get into that one, but that one will be coming out around Thursday, Friday this week. Again, I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.